If you watched part one, you know most Americans are not capitalists. Oh, they might want to be. Strive to be wet dream of being. But they're not. And you also know from part one, you know the difference between being a worker and a capitalist. I mean, if you gotta work to live, if your physical or intellectual labor is how you keep a roof over your head, food on the table, pay the bills, you're a worker. If you don't gotta work, if returns on your investment is how you make money, investments in companies whose profit depends on shaving a little off the worker's wages and giving it to you instead, if you live off underpaying others for their physical or intellectual labor, kind of like a parasite, then you're a capitalist. Which, of course, brings up the question, why would any self-respecting worker want to be a capitalist? I mean, how did American workers come to think of the leech life as the lush life? Well, that's easy. See, it's always been part of the American myth that we are rooting for the hard-working underdog. When in reality, we've been trained over the past couple of centuries to despise the hard-working underdog and aspire to be an idle top dog who bathes in aristocratic wealth and luxury. The training is that you, as a worker, are not enough. You, as a worker, are not living up to your potential, since you, as a worker, are not rich. You, as a worker, are a loser. And in capitalist America, it's all about users and losers. It's like we're under some spell that makes us believe wanting to be a slick-haired, fast-talking, shiny-suited succubus who feeds off our fellow human beings is somehow a good thing. It's capitalist propaganda. It's crap. It's crapaganda. So, let's look at some of this crapaganda. See how it works on the average person. Let's start with that barista from part one. I mean, there she is, smiling while serving up cups of hot joe to a morning rush of caffeine addicts, thinking she is a capitalist. Sweating over extra cinnamon, hurriedly steaming free-range milk, doing it all for minimum wage. A dutiful capitalist cog in a beautiful wealth-making machine. A machine that is actually sucking her dry. And she doesn't think capitalism is evil. Oh, no. She thinks it's the natural state of being, and that she, like all Americans, is just a few steps away from gloriously living off of others. Yeah, no. She, like most Americans, is way closer to being homeless than she is to becoming a successful economic succubus. But she has been trained to associate herself with those at the top. Oh. And about that minimum wage she's working for. I mean, why don't you think about that for a second. Think about the words. Minimum wage. Many of our wealthiest publicly traded corporations who, while boasting that they shower their CEOs with bajillions of dollars, will simultaneously pay their hardest working employees the rock bottom amount they can legally get away with. The very minimum of wages. And why would America's favorite high-value, low-price supermarket to the world, we bring good things to light, 40 billion burgers sold, one on every corner coffee shop, pay as little as they can get away with without breaking the damn law? Because capitalism dictates that labor costs be kept as low as possible so the greatest possible profit can be returned to the capitalists. Corporations are legally mandated to return dividends, not pay livable wages to the people who actually do the work. Pshaw! Profit only comes from raising prices or lowering costs. So, minimum wages. Workers do all the work and the people with the money get all the profit. And when that hardworking barista can't make rent, get a winter coat or buy school supplies for her kids, it isn't because she isn't working hard or because there isn't enough money. There is plenty of money. It's just that too few people are getting it. Though, to be fair, little bit of that profit is spent on her. That little bit which is spent on the crapaganda to keep her believing that capitalism works for her. Because the capitalists profit from her believing that, and capitalism is in capitalism, everything is about profit. Everything. Capitalism is absolutely amoral. It only exists to make those with money more money. If a profit can be made by saving that barista's life, the capitalist will save her life. And if a profit can be made by letting her die, they will happily let her die. Heck, they might even kill her. It's not about making the world a better place, even a little bit. If making the world a worse place is more profitable, capitalism and capitalists will happily turn this world into hell. Of course, they'll never tell you that. No. Instead, they will give you propaganda. Let's look at some more of it, shall we? Capitalism creates wealth. Now, labor creates wealth. Capitalism simply profits from the labor. An example. A guy with no money's on the beach. With his bare hands, he builds a sandcastle so beautiful, people pay him to take pictures in front of it. All he invested was his labor, and he will have more money than he started with, because labor equals money. Another guy, same beach, $100 in his pocket. That's it. Say, because unless he does something or pays someone else to do something, that $100, it's not going to increase. Well, he could invest it. That's what you say to me. And what do I say back to you? Hold on there, Sparky. Wherever the guy would invest his $100, his return would rely on someone's labor to turn it into a profit. Starbucks. Starbucks is a profitable coffee-selling corporation. But if some laborer didn't pick the coffee beans, load the coffee beans, unload the coffee beans, deliver the coffee beans, roast the coffee beans, grind the coffee beans, and steam that coffee up to make some hot, overpriced bean water, Starbucks investors would never make a profit. Labor is the essential ingredient to profit. So, why aren't we all proud laborists rather than wannabe capitalists? Propaganda. And what kind of economy do you get when a nation convinces itself that money breeds money, that investment alone creates wealth, and that labor is irrelevant? Look out the window! Yeah. Propaganda pile number 2. Capitalism is self-regulating. Now, this is the statement on every front page each time the market crashes. The lie that the real problem is that there are regulations at all, and that if left alone, the market would fix itself. If your car ran like capitalism, some days humming along great and other days needing a government tow truck to get it to a shop where a mechanic can only promise more booms and breakdowns after it's fixed, you would not call your car self-regulating. You would call it junk. You'd give it away on Craigslist for parts and start looking for something that actually worked for you. But unfortunately, when the mechanics of Wall Street, the same mental minnows who every few years insist the economic engine is just warming up when the oil pan is on fire, when the same sleazy used car selling felons who tell us that the car of capitalism, how it's supposed to run, and it would run great, and they tell us that right before they crash it, when these crooks show us how incompetent and inept they are, we, the workers, have consistently failed to trade capitalism in for a better economic model. Okay. Steaming sack of propaganda number 3. Capitalism fosters competition. Okay, that's just insane. The object of any corporation is to dominate its market, not joyfully share it. It's not about building a better mousetrap. It's about lowering labor costs so the corporation can undercut their competition's mousetrap price. Or it's about getting enough investor capital so they can just buy any of their competition in the mousetrap industry. We, the consumers, we might benefit from some real mousetrap competition, but corporations hate it. And anyone who says different is trying to sell you some mousetrap deregulation. The goal of capitalism is profit. Market domination equals greater profit. Monopoly ensures domination. The enemy of monopoly is competition. This is why so much of our competitive food and consumer goods market in the United States it's really owned by only 11 corporations. And even they are trying to always buy each other. By now, it might be 10. Oh, and why don't we hear about this? Well, it's because our vast media landscape is actually controlled by only 6 corporations. And by now, it might be only 5. Capitalism always tends towards monopoly. Okay, festering propaganda pile number 4. Capitalism works best with fewer or no restrictions. Really? The recession of 1981. You may not remember this. But up to that point, it was the most serious economic slump since the Great Depression. And what preceded it? Deregulation. The Depository Institution Deregulations and Monetary Control Act of 1980, which ended many of the rules on how banks could invest the money you deposited with them. Your money in their pockets. But with regulations gone, the capitalists played the stock market like it was Vegas, speculated on real estate, lost our deposits, and in 1981, the federal government had to spend $870 million to bail them out. And this is back when $870 million could really buy something. And what did these cash-sucking colon worms do to follow that one up? More deregulation. The Garn-St. Germain Depository Institutions Act of 1982, which further deregulated banks and have also, wait for it, the savings and loans, which of course led to more gambling. And the FDIC listing 540 banks on the verge of failure. And then the S&L crisis popped, and a $160 billion bailout billion with a B. And this was during the Reagan recovery. Yeah. Oh, and what legislative crap-a-rama landed right before the implosion of 2008? Regulation. The Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, which overturned banking regulations that had separated commercial and investment banking since 1933. The result? Another biggest economic meltdown since the Great Depression at $831 billion of our tax dollars spent on bailing out these capitalist deregulators who always insist that government regulation is the problem. Every time any regulations are lifted from the market, capitalists will find a way to abuse that new freedom and rob us in the process. My friend John, he worked in the financial sector for over 29 years, big banks. He says, people in the business of money are always looking for ways to steal. They're always looking for ways around any law which stands between them and your money. The system is set up for them to see your money as theirs, profit as the goal, and regulation as the enemy. And whatever pain and economic destruction their deregulated crimes cause along the way, it's just the price of doing business. The price we pay for them doing business. Is that all the propaganda, you ask? Oh, hell no. Let me tell you some more in part 3.